Testing, 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 testing. So let's see what that sounds like. Something's wrong. Why is it so quiet? Okay, let's try again. All right, so now we are trying test number 2. Okay, so I don't know how well you can hear. Even with the gain all the way up, the audio is still really too quiet. So my only guess is that maybe the laptop isn't giving as much power to the preamp. So I think I need to figure out a way to actually use my desktop like I normally do. We're doing another audio test. The gain is currently set at 2 p.m., but it sounded a little quiet in the last test, so I'm going to try turning it up to 3 o'clock. So now it is right at 3 o'clock. Well, that sounds pretty good. Hey there, guys. So I've just sat down to record the first real episode of my new podcast that's coming out in about a month here. And just sitting down and trying to even get set up for this was quite a little bit of a struggle. And that's kind of how the whole process has been. And I don't think it's because podcasting is so hard. I mean, nothing terrible has gone wrong. It's just because I'm trying something new. And whenever you try something new and it's something you're not used to and not knowledgeable about, not experienced with, it's difficult. I hear that a lot from other people who want to start a YouTube channel because they see all the benefits of starting a YouTube channel. They see the impact it's had on my life, but they're just so overwhelmed with what has to go into starting a YouTube channel. Not that it's so incredibly difficult at all. In fact, at this point, I would say it's really quite easy. But when you're first starting out and things are brand new, they're difficult because there's just so much you don't know. And so I think podcasting is actually probably easier than doing a YouTube channel, but so far it's been much more difficult than I'm used to. So, for example, I sat down here right now and I already knew this, but my mouse that I normally use with this computer died. I have no idea what's wrong with it. I already tried changing the battery, but it's dead. So I couldn't use my regular desktop computer, so I was going to use my laptop. So I plugged everything into my laptop, and this is a whole setup that I'm not really familiar with.'ve only just started experimenting with it, and I really am guessing at what I'm doing. But we've got this microphone here. This is the Rode Procaster microphone. And then we've got over here the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 preamp that is giving this microphone some power. But when I plugged it into the laptop, it was extremely quiet, even with everything cranked all the way up. So we had to figure out a way to use the desktop. So I went down and I stole my husband's mouse from his desktop computer, and I'm using that. And obviously I'm gonna need to get a new mouse of my own. Also, my face. So many people have told me one of the great things about podcasting is that you don't have to put your makeup on. You don't even have to wear clothes if you don't want to. And I am excited about that benefit, but ironically, I've got full face of makeup on, my hair's done, got red lipstick on. It's just kind of funny. I had to film some other videos earlier today for our channel launch course, so I had to get myself done up anyway, and then I thought, hey, I can also film this video and show you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes of getting ready for the podcast launch. So, if you don't know, I'm launching a podcast. It's going to be coming out on January 27th, so in just a few weeks here. I'm really excited about it for a lot of reasons. We'll get into that a little bit today. I am planning on making another video when the podcast comes out to tell you all about it. So I'm not gonna wax on in length about the podcast today. I more wanted to show you the behind the scenes of what it's like to start a podcast. So we've been working on this for more than a month, probably about 3 months at this point. I'm working with a podcast production company called Yellow House Media. They've been amazing to work with. And the reason I decided to go that route is because I'm already a pretty busy person running a business and running a YouTube channel, obviously, and I'm a mom, and you guys know, I've got a lot going on. So there were several reasons why I wanted to start a podcast, but I've been thinking that for well over a year, probably for 2 or 3 years. It's been on the back of my mind of something I would like to do sometime. But I really didn't want to add another thing to my plate that was especially going to be another thing to manage. So bringing a podcast production company into the picture is really allowing me to not have to do most of the work. I'm planning out the episodes and I'm talking into the microphone, but then after that, I'm able to just send them the files and they're pretty much going to take care of everything else. So especially once we get beyond the launch itself, it's just being an extremely easy process on my end. So the biggest difficulties that I've experienced so far have been around making creative decisions about the podcast. Specifically, the podcast name. I've been stressing everyone out for the last couple months because I could not decide on a name. I wanted something really, I would say, clever. It didn't have to be clever, but I wanted it to be clever, and I also wanted it to be accurate and descriptive of the podcast. So I just have not been able to pick a name. I finally did decide on a name, and the name of the podcast is Work Less, Earn More. This has been one of the tenets of my brand over the last couple of years. I've been leaning into it more and more as I've seen how important it is to focus on strategies that really give you the biggest results. When you're trying to grow an online business, we're all busy. We've all got limited time. And if our businesses add to that busyness, if there are another 40 hours or 50 or 60 hours a week of things that we have to do, then it just leaves so little time for living and enjoying the results of the success of our business. So if we spend that much time working, it just means that even if our business is successful, we don't really get to enjoy it. And of course, also, if you're using strategies that aren't very effective, your business might not even end up being very successful. So that is what the podcast is going to be all about. Strategies for getting the most out of every hour you work, strategies for getting the biggest results with the smallest time investment. Every single month, I'm going to be sharing a couple episodes that are about my personal experience, things I figured out, things that are working in my business. I'm also going to be bringing on a couple guests who will share with us how they run their business in a minimal amount of time, and we're aiming for 20 hours a week or less. And things that have worked for them, things they've been able to achieve using the strategies they share with us. And then also, and I'm really excited about this, I'm also a little bit nervous about this, but I'm excited about it because I think you guys are going to love it. I'm going to be sharing an income report every single month, and it's not going to be just any income report. It is going to be both a report of how much I earned, but it's also going to be a report on how much time I spent and what I spent that time on, and then an analysis of which tasks really paid me best. So which things earned me $100 an hour versus which things maybe only earned me $20 an hour, so that you can see which things really paid off and you can use that information as you're trying to decide what to focus on in your business. So for example, I'm going to be spending time producing this podcast, and then in my income reports, you're going to see how that podcast is paying me back. Does it end up being worth it? You know, if it ends up not being worth it, I might choose to discontinue the podcast down the road. But there are a lot of reasons why I really want to have a podcast. Like I said, I'll get more into that later, but there's just a lot of things that, for a few reasons, I can't talk about here on YouTube that I really want to get into with you really deeply, because they're just important things for building a successful online business. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, and that is what you really want to hear more about, how I run my business, and the strategies that other successful online entrepreneurs are using to build their businesses, then the podcast will be an awesome place for you to get that information. Because here on YouTube, I have to focus more on beginner tutorials and list type videos and inspiration type videos, and I can't get as tactical and I can't really share with you how I run my business. So if you're more interested in that kind of content, you're gonna love the podcast. Okay, so like I said, I'm sitting down right now to record this very first episode. I'm a little bit nervous about it because I've never done this before, it's new. I did already record the trailer episode, which is just a really short, like 3-minute episode to explain to people what the podcast is about. So I got my feet wet a little bit that way, and it was really good because I'm way less nervous about recording this first episode now since I've already done that. Before I did that, I was really nervous about it because it was just new. Okay, so that is most of what I wanted to share with you, but there is one other really important thing. I would love to have your help. I would really, really appreciate your help as we are getting ready to launch this podcast. Let me explain to you a little bit what you could do to help me. So basically, when a podcast launches, there is a big opportunity for it to rank on Apple Podcasts and in some other places. And if it doesn't rank well when it first launches, then it can basically never end up ranking well. Even if people find it over time, it's just not going to do as well. So if we want the most people to discover the podcast and learn these time-saving, money-making strategies that I believe can really have such an impact on their life and their lifestyle, give them a lot more freedom and flexibility. In order for that to happen, we need to get the most downloads and the most subscribers to the podcast right when it launches. And that's where you can come in. If you would be interested, be willing to help me out with this, and you would also like to be a part of the process, see behind the scenes, and have the opportunity to win some fun prizes along the way, then I would love to have you be a part of our street team for launching the podcast. I don't know if that's something that would be interesting to you, but like I said, it'd be really helpful to me. I'd appreciate it a lot, and I think it'd be fun for you two to be a part of the team. So I'm going to put a link down below where you can find out a little bit more about the podcast and also sign up to be a part of the street team. It won't involve very much on your end. It's not a big time commitment. I'll give you an update each week for the next 4 or so weeks here before the podcast launches, and I'll let you know exactly what you can do to help. But it's basically going to come down to making sure that when the podcast launches, you're one of those first people who goes and downloads the episodes that are released and subscribes, and then you share it with anyone who you think would be interested in the show as well. And in exchange for your help, as I mentioned, you'll get to be part of the team, see behind the scenes of launching the podcast. You're also going to get access to a little bit of bonus content, including specifically a Q&A with me, where you can ask questions relating to the podcast or about launching a podcast. Anything podcast related that you want to know is fair game for this Q&A. We're going to be doing it right around the time that the podcast launches. So if you want to get in on that and you'd like to be a part of the team, then be sure to click that link down below and sign up to be a part of the street team. Like I said, your help would be very, very valuable to me. So I would be forever grateful. All right, well, I think that is it for this video. I just wanted to give you guys an update on what's happening with the podcast. I think I already said this, but it is launching on January 27th. New episodes are going to be coming out every single Monday, but your help in that first week is especially appreciated. If you have any questions about the podcast, leave them in the comments down below. I'll definitely be checking those comments. If you have any comments about the podcast, any advice is the wrong word, any input on things you'd like to see on the podcast, leave that down below. And also, I would love to hear what some of your favorite podcasts are. I'm always looking for new great podcasts to listen to. And also, as I'm doing research for my podcast, I'm listening to lots of different podcasts to see what I like, what I don't like. So leave me the names of any podcasts that you like down below. All those things would be super helpful. All right, that's it for this video. Of course, if you're new here and you just found my channel from this video, then make sure you subscribe if you want to hear more about entrepreneurship and success, YouTube, podcasting, things like that. This is the place for that. Give this video a like if you're excited for the podcast, and I'll see you all next time.